Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So today is definitely a feminine day. It's rainy, it's kind of gross outside, and I spent the morning, most of the morning actually, sitting by my fireplace, just journaling, and I was reflecting on a podcast that I had listened to on the way home from dropping the kids off at school. And it is the Soul Wealth podcast. The host is Ryan Ukomi. He has been one of my mentors for years, and he's awesome. Check him out for sure. And he mentioned this thing on the podcast this morning. I'm actually going to send him a message about it later. And he said something along the lines of, couldn't it all change in an instant? And I thought, well, shoot, couldn't it all change in an instant? And then I began to think about, what was I actually making difficult for myself? What was I believing was a limit or a block, or as I had phrased it, right? Why is it so hard? Why does the thing that I want to do feel so hard, and yet someone else seems to do it so easily? Why does it feel so hard? Kind of like you're just hitting your head up against the wall repeatedly. You're like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? And what's interesting is it's not necessarily hard, but we complicate the hell out of it. We make it, we compound it, is what we actually do. And so the thing that we deem as hard, whether it's receiving more money, whether it's losing weight, whether it's, finding a partner that will cherish you, right? Like whatever the hard thing is that we can't seem to achieve, I really want to challenge you to look at, can you let go of that part of your identity? Or as Myron Golden calls, a lie-identity. Check him out, Google him, he'll fill you in on all of that. But what I mean is, like, when I was activated by that comment from Ryan in regards to it just being a moment, I thought, okay, let me have a conversation with that part of myself. And if you've listened to my podcast before, you've been here on YouTube before, I've talked about this book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, with Debbie Ford. And one of the exercises in this book is really powerful if you actually do it. And I don't know what she actually calls it, but it's like a bus ride where you get on this bus with all of these different emotional characters, right? Imagine the movie Inside Out, where joy is one character, and then fear, and then anger, and then sadness, and then anxiety, right? Like there are all these different characters, and when you can actually have a conversation with that emotional part of yourself, you start to disentangle from it. And so this morning, when I was relating back to the podcast, because it had mentioned, right, like if you have an ancestral bond that you're trying to break, and I know for me, I do have one of these ancestral ties that I've legitimately been tasked with to undo. It was a whole experience where my grandmother actually came to tell me that this was the thing that I was supposed to be working on. And I made it into this big thing where it was going to be like this super complicated response to it. And instead, this morning, I named the emotion. I had a conversation with her. And it seemed to feel lighter just by having this conversation. So this ancestral tie, I'm going to just give you more information here so that you know, is in regards to receiving money with your gifts, right? I come from a long line of independent women who hustled and did all of the things to receive money to pay for children. single moms, essentially, right? So very strong, independent women. However, these very strong, independent women also have a very masculine take to them. Struggle to struggle to sink into their feminine and actually just receive. Everything seems to be harder than maybe it needs to be, um, because they've been taught that hard work equals money. And so the disentanglement that's happening is, can you receive money with your gift if it's not actually hard work? And so the situation herein lies, am I making my gift harder to receive than it actually needs to be? Short answer, yes, absolutely you are, Steph. Congratulations for finding that out. Also, side note, I read this scientific study the other day that said that people who talk out loud to themselves are actually less likely to be anxious. So I guess this podcast is actually doing incredible things for me because I talk to myself regularly through this. I've actually started to coach myself aloud in front of people. It's actually quite interesting, their reactions to all of this. But again, sidebar. So, are you making it harder than it actually needs to be? Yeah, probably. You're probably complicating the hell out of the thing. You've probably thought of all of the ways that it could possibly go wrong. And because you thought of all the ways that it could go wrong, you're not actually looking at the way that it actually could go right. Because when you're looking at all the things that could go wrong, you don't see all of the possibilities for the thing that could go right. Right? It's like, oh my gosh, what was I? I was doing something earlier today. And the answer was legitimately right in front of me, but I was looking everywhere else for the thing. And when you're worried and stressed about it not going right, you don't see the right in front of you. Prime example, I got an email last week from one of the vendors for the business that my husband and I own. And I was feeling a little bit stressed with these emails back and forth with this vendor. And the email that came through said something along the lines of, they would not be able to sell me the product that I already had a contract for from a client. And I panicked. I spiraled so quickly, couldn't seem to coach myself off of this ledge, just panicked and spiraled. I mean, spiraled, right? And I called the vendor, he didn't answer the phone. And so then I sent another email and I said, I'd really like to have a conversation with you. I'm a bit concerned that you're not willing to sell me this product now. To which he replied, that's not actually what my email said. My email said, I needed an application on file for you to sell you the product. To which I went back to the email, and sure as shit, that's what the email said. But I was so panicked and stressed that I couldn't actually read what the email said, correctly the first time. And so I panicked and spiraled for nothing, because all this vendor needed was an application on file for me. And then it was fine, and the contract is fine, and everything else is fine. But I couldn't read the email because I was stressed and I was panicked and I was freaking out that I couldn't actually read correctly what the email said. It wasn't like there was a read between the lines. It legitimately said, without an application on file, I will not be able to X, Y, and Z. And all I read was, I will not be able to X, Y, and Z. Fill out the application, crisis averted, right? But where else are we making it so much harder for ourselves than it actually needs to be? Because a part of you believes that the thing has to be hard for it to be worth it. Why? Like, I remember the first time I had this realization. Actually, the phrase came up through me, and it was, there's nobility in the struggle, is what I had been subscribed to. I was subscribed to the fact that it was going to be hard and it was going to be miserable and all of the things. And yet, I remember the very first client that paid me. It was $250 an hour, I think, something like that was my rate at the time. So I was doing 4 calls a month with private clients at that time. So it was $1,000 a month. And I remember my very first call, and I got off that call with that client, and I was just on cloud nine. It was amazing to me that somebody was willing to exchange their money for that conversation. And it was an incredible feeling. And yet I've made it way harder than it needs to be. Way harder than it needs to be. Because I've overcomplicated it, because there's a part of me that believes there's nobility in the struggle. Or there's a part of me, again, that believes it has to be difficult. This has to be the way that it is. Is it? Is it really the way that it is? Or is it just the way that it's been in the past, and so you think that's the way it's going to be in the future? Probably that one. Probably that one. If you're letting the hard, quote unquote hard, of the past dictate the future, it's going to continue to be hard. But if you do like a little mini experiment, like I'd like to do on myself, and you say, you know what if this was easy? What if it was fun? What if I was wrong about the whole way that it's unfolding? Could it show up differently? Abso-freaking-lutely, but many of us are not willing to be wrong. We are self-righteous in our rightness, that we're not willing to see another way. And life can't change if you're not willing to be wrong. And that's kind of a sad thing. If you're willing to get a perspective shift, you're willing for things to be different, if you're willing for it to be easy, then let it be easy. Because here's the only difference between the people that are doing the thing easily versus you who's doing it more complicated. They don't believe it's that hard. They believe it's kind of easy. They believe it is easy. And yet you're over here with the belief that it's complicated and it's hard, but it's just your belief. Could you believe that it's easy? Could they be your example that it's actually doable? And then, could it be easy? Yeah, it could. So, I'm sending you a whole bunch of love. I hope that you have an amazing rest of your day. If you are interested in some perspective shifts and you're willing to be wrong in the new year, I do have I can speak. Wow, this is a struggle today. I do have private coaching spots available, and they are 3 months up to 12 months. I am doing annual as well, for the people that are willing to go really deep. But 3 months for those who, maybe just feel stuck a little bit and need just a little fine tuning, a little recalibration, as I like to call. So 3 months for that. Also 12-month is available. No group programs right now, but I do know that in 2026 there will be some group ones coming through. So reach out to me if you have questions about that. If you are feeling stuck in something, let's get you unstuck. You don't need another course. You don't need another program. You need a breakthrough. And that's what I do. I help you break through. So I'm sending you a whole lot of love. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And if you got value from this YouTube or podcast, if you could like, comment, subscribe, or share, I would definitely appreciate that. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.